World Rugby Rankings. After the Six Nations, now that we've had that final game between France and Scotland, we can see how things are lying until the next set of internationals, which is quite some time away in the men's game. The women's Six Nations is not too far away, but in the men's game, we're kind of out of internationals for a while, so these are going to be the rankings for quite some time. There's been a few teams move, especially in the top 10, despite only 2 teams playing. I should mention my kids are outside playing in a big old box. We got a big delivery the other day of a couch, and that has meant it came with a big old box. So as kids will do, forget the toys that we've got. We're going to play with the box. So if you can hear yelling and screaming and whatnot, that's my kids just outside the door playing in a box. There we go. So in terms of the rankings, Australia, no, not talking about them. South Africa and New Zealand. Got Australia on the brain recently. Australia and New Zealand, goodness me, I just did it again. South Africa and New Zealand are still 1 and 2. No changes, having not played any games. England, and I'm wearing the kit for today because England are the beneficiaries of France's loss. England are up into 3rd. They were in 4th, but France has dropped 2 spots. So England benefit and Ireland benefit. If we look at the rankings prior to the Six Nations, England's overall net result is still down in January and February. They were in 2nd when there was no games being played after the Autumn Nations Cup. They were in 2nd, so their overall competition is a net loss of 1 spot into 3rd. Again, the campaign wasn't the best for the English. Ireland, on the other hand, it's a net gain for them in the Six Nations. They went into the competition in 5th, and now they are up into 4th. So, yeah, they didn't play either, but France has dropped below them. France, like I just mentioned, down 2 spots. So, disappointing end for the Six Nations for them, despite the fact that the competition log looks decent for them. They still end up losing 1 spot. They were in 4th going into the competition. They finish off in 5th. Home losses to teams ranked really quite far below you, with the way the rankings are calculated, are pretty bad. So prior to that game, France were on 86.17. Now they're on 84.27. So they lost pretty heavily in terms of the points, especially when you can see the points difference between the countries is pretty tight. Wales finished the competition in 6th. There's no movement for them because France didn't drop below Wales. So with Wales not playing, they just stay steady, but it's an overall gain, man. Wales were 9th and now they're in 6th, so that position better reflects their position with the results of their Six Nations Championship. So congratulations once again to Wales. Australia are steady. Scotland, like I mentioned, a pretty big beneficiary from that history-making away win in France. So they're up to 82.02. They were on 80.12. So like I said, it's a big points exchange that they took off France there. Takes them above Argentina pretty handily. So Argentina dropped without having played a game. Japan, Fiji, Tonga and Samoa haven't played any games. Georgia did get a win in their last game, but they didn't get any points change from it because it's getting to the point where they are so far above the teams they've been playing, they just don't gain anything. And that's the way the points exchange system works. You've got to be relatively close to the team you're playing to be able to take points off them. If you beat a team well ranked below you, you're just not going to gain anything. So most of the countries, I don't think, maybe Scotland gained a wee 0.1 or something from Italy when they played them, but everybody else didn't gain anything with their victories over Italy, and Italy doesn't drop any further except for that one loss to Scotland. So I think Georgia, they've been playing the likes of Romania, who's on 66.22, Portugal are on 62.1, for Spain are on 64.82. So the difference is just getting that much that Georgia's probably going to stagnate, even though they just keep winning game after game. In terms of the European games, they're just not going to be able to gain much from them. So it's going to be pretty steady as she goes. Elsewhere below where I've got the listings here on the boards, Italy are in 15th, so they've dropped 1 prior to the Six Nations. I should say Scotland actually end up 1 spot worse than when they started. They were in 7th at the start of the Six Nations. Italy 14th to 15th. So everyone is a loser except for Ireland and Wales, who are the only teams who end up above where they were going into the competition. Man, my kids are going absolutely bananas. What was I mentioning? Rankings. Yep, that's pretty much them. Oh, below the teams who I've listed on the board. Romania, no change with their loss to Georgia. Spain have lost points with their loss to Portugal, but not enough to drop them a spot. They're in 19th. Portugal's a winner, have gone up to 21st from 24th. So Hong Kong, Canada, and Namibia all fall below that spot. So Yeah, we've got no international men's rugby for a while, like I mentioned, so it's going to be pretty steady. This will be the picture that you're going into. I think the next fixtures on the calendar, I mean, the main one I'm looking at is the British and Irish Lions, but that's not for several months. So we're not going to see any men's games for quite some time. We do have the Asian, I think, Championship in May, if you're hankering for some international rugby. Like I mentioned, the Women's Six Nations is going to be on. That should be pretty entertaining. Some pretty open flowing games there. The Men's Champions Cup still going to be going. Super Rugby AU and Aotearoa are going. The South African prep season is going. The Premiership's still going. The Pro 14's just finished. Rainbow Cup's on the way. So there's still heaps of rugby. Just not much in the way of men's internationals. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on the rankings. How fairly do you think they reflect? Do you think this is fair, especially for the top 5 Six Nations teams? Wales are still ranked below 3 teams. They beat 2 of them, and they are still above Scotland, but that's just kind of the way the rankings go. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'm going to go mind my children. See you later. Bye.